Derry Museum Service is the biggest museum service in Northern Ireland for a local authority, and is probably the biggest, certainly one of the biggest in Ireland. In the museum there's a range of roles. There's a number of behind the scenes roles, so you'd have the curator, you have an education officer, an archivist, a genealogist perhaps. You might have somebody who does documentation work, documents the collection. In the museum service here we would also have an exhibitions manager who manages our exhibitions. There's also a range of front of house jobs. And these would be attendant guides, receptionists. So it's a pretty varied number of jobs.
My role would involve putting programmes together for schools that are relevant to the curriculum, and also helping with the delivery of those programmes then, of course, within the museum context. And we are looking at community involvement, we are looking at family learning, we're looking at adult learning, we're looking at ways in which the museum, and particularly the collections within the museums, can be used to really enhance people's understanding of where they live, perhaps their heritage, local heritage, or just understanding of where we've come from in our past.
An archivist is really very much like a curatorial role. The archivist's main role is to look after paper collections, works of art on paper, and any ephemera, which is paper-based. So in a role with a local authority, for instance, we would look after things like minute books, correspondence, works of art, and private collections, which includes photographs and drawings. What we also try to do is to get rid of the idea of dusty old archives and dusty old books. So we'll try to integrate them into education programmes and into exhibitions, so that people can understand how we use these and how we pull information from an archive collection to interpret your history or your heritage.
It used to be genealogy was associated with tourists, with Americans, with Australians, with people from Britain. But with the recent, with a few initiatives that have happened recently, the Who Do You Think You Are programme, the 1911 census for all of Ireland going live, it's generated a lot of interest locally within family history. I think schools maybe make use of family history as an introduction to the history of the community. So it's a very broad subject. I look back, my strong subjects were always geography and history. I mean, genealogy is a marriage of history and geography, because you have to know about place to study family history.
I thought I would like to do something with history to popularise history, or to increase access to history. And so I thought heritage management. Once I finished my history course, I went off and did some voluntary work for about 6 months in various heritage organisations. And then I got a pretty lowly museums job. And I did that for about 6 or 7 months. And then I went and did a postgraduate qualification museum studies in Leicester. And then gradually built my way up after that and got a couple of related jobs.
From the idea of being a user of museums, now I want it to be on the other side, and really to try and make the museum accessible then to others. And I thought this is a great opportunity, because I can use my skills that I have obviously acquired through teaching, but now I get to do it in a different, more informal context. And I think working in cultural heritage and working in a museum context, you get to meet so many different people, and because exhibitions change, because that your programme changes year on year, there is that variety and that opportunity then to do things differently.
It is a very broad career. There's jobs available in the business sector. The likes of Guinness and a lot of the very large banking organisations employ archivists and record managers now as well. And there's also a lot of councils and local authorities and government departments would also employ archivists. So record management and the digitisation of collections is really becoming a growth area in employment.
The one thing you have to bring to family history is just a passion for doing it, to be honest, because family history is one of those things that either sends you to sleep or it makes you, it really does get you going. I was talking to an American lady yesterday. She's on her 8th trip to Ireland, just trying to pin down her ancestors, and she just loves the chase.
We can't lose sight of the reason why we have heritage and what we do it for. And we don't really do museums or do heritage for tourists or for economic development. The reason we do it is because we believe that there's a value in heritage, and we believe that people, whenever they access it, get something out of it.